Former Congressman Tom Tancredo, an illustrious veteran of this very table, has been engaged in a war of words with Congressman Mike Coffman. The war boiled over this week with Coffman challenging Tancredo to join him in a primary for the 6th Congressional District. Tancredo responded by challenging Coffman to join him in the GOP gubernatorial primary. Coffman said if Tancredo doesn't run against him, he expects one of Tancredo's, quote, white supremacist friends to do so. Mike, I got to tell you, reading these stories made me feel like I was watching the Real Housewives of Colorado GOP County, because one is going to one up the other, back and forth, and these are two heavy hitters when it comes to the Colorado Republicans, Mike Coffman and Tom Tancredo. You know Tom very well, as everyone around the table does. You also know Mike Coffman. What did you make of the kerfuffle we saw, and is it going to last for more than what just this week?
I have no idea if it's going to last for very long. It's really, look, have you met Republicans? I mean, they have their fights out in public. Primary fights get brutal and bloody. In fact, there's still bad blood going all the way back to a decade to gubernatorial primaries, and then of course with Dan Mays. So Republicans, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that, look, by the way, Tom's a very strong personality and an independent guy. And whether or not he's doing this as part of the Tom Tancredo show, or if he has some strategy behind it, who knows? This is just look at the difference between the parties here in Colorado. That Democrats don't do this. The Democrats run a pretty tight ship in this state, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have narrower streams of funding, I guess is the best way to put it. So a few people can pull a lot more strings. The GOP is full of free agents and is a decentralized system. And so, yes, you end up with interesting characters out there doing their thing, and that just doesn't happen on their side. This is just really an example of the Republicans in Colorado just tend to air their dirty laundry in public, while Democrats are much better at constraining it and keeping it quiet. And that's just, look, is it damaging? Probably in some way it's damaging. Tom Tancredo could not win Mike Coffman's seat as it exists today. Mike has worked very hard to nail down a seat that he should frankly have a lot tougher time winning on a regular basis. So anyway, Republican dysfunction spilling out into the public sphere. What can you say?
Eric, I guess the question goes to you. What can you say? We didn't have time to even get to some of the juicier parts. Is the fact that Tom Tancredo met with Steve Bannon this week to say, hey, should I run for governor? And that quote, as he said, yeah, the topic came up. So here we are. I mean, this is not just Tancredo and Coffman arguing in public. This is a far bigger deal. What do you think?
Mike used the phrase Republican dysfunction. I think when the definitive historical book on this decade is written, that could be the title. That said, Mike, I think, gives too much credit for Democrats for sometimes having their act together. Yes, Democrats in Colorado have been more disciplined over the last decade or more, but we're about to see a five-way primary, a five-way Democratic primary for governor. Trust me, there will be plenty of dirty laundry aired on that side of the divide as well. Tom Tancredo, we've talked about it before around this show. Tom is desperately trying to stay relevant in his elderly years, and it is not always pretty to watch. We tend to shy away from predictions, and we're often wrong, but I'll make one prediction right now, and I won't be wrong on this. Tom Tancredo will not be the next governor of Colorado. It is not going to happen. He, yes, as an independent in that whole Dan Mays mess, got 35-ish% of the vote. Then he lost 4 years later a primary to Bob Beaupre, who was sort of a dated product himself within the Republican Party, but still was able to defeat Tancredo in a primary. Even Jared Polis, who some people think might be the weakest of the Democratic candidates, the strongest in the primary, but potentially the weakest in a general election. If it came to that, Jared Polis would beat Tom Tancredo like a drum. I do not see Tom even getting this nomination, much less winning the election. He would be the Republicans' worst nightmare. Sometimes you just need to let one of these cycles pass and not be at the center of it. And Tom is just constitutionally unable to step away from the microphone.
Pat, I almost felt sorry for Walker Stapleton this week. I mean, he actually officially joined in the race, and we've been talking about it for months, and he finally makes the announcement, and no one even knew it happened because of all this going on. Your thoughts?
Well, no one's likely to ever know that Walker Stapleton ran at the rate this is going anyway. So his announcement may be getting the same reaction that his candidacy does. Eric's right. Tom is looking to stay relevant, but the reality is Tom's been irrelevant for almost 20 years and is never going to be relevant again. The issue is really, you talk about rising to the bait. I don't know why Mike Coffman is doing this, except perhaps to distance himself from Trump and the Breitbart extremist arm of his party, to try to say, hey, I'm moderate Mike here, and I'm in a district that's becoming more diverse geographically and politically and socioeconomically and racially, that I'm not one of these, ranting bigots. I actually believe in a pluralistic and a very diverse America, and I'm reasonable, so keep sending me to Congress. And Tancredo has given him the opportunity to do that. But Eric's right. Tom's not going to run for governor because no one's going to give him money to lose for a third time.
If moderate Mike catches on, I hope you at least get the credit from Congressman Coffman. That's pretty catchy.
Yeah, I ought to get some royalties or something.
Patty, you know Tom extremely well. Is he in it to win it, or is he in it for some fun?
Well, I have to say he has not confided in me as he might have confided in Steve Bannon. But just the visual of Steve Bannon coming to town fresh on the victory with Moore, and like Tancredo, the next logical person. I would argue about the relevancy because all you have to look at is who won the presidency largely on the build the wall argument. I mean, Tancredo has been pounding that drum for a long time, and clearly there are plenty of people who still believe in it. I don't think he's really out to run for governor this time. I think he is just out to cause trouble, and you know what? He's extremely good at it. He gets people stirred up. And if he can stir up the Republican Party into maybe getting a little more sensible about who they run and how they run, I mean, nothing beats Walker Stapleton's big fundraising secrecy, and then just kind of, he could have been doing it at a grocery store along with Perlmutter. I mean, for the amount of attention those two, who early on looked like the front runners, got. It's pretty interesting. But I do not think Tancredo will be the next governor or even the next Republican gubernatorial candidate, but he'll stir things up in the meantime.
He will stir indeed.